welcome back. Here we are in Schenectady. Again, I'm your host here, Mike Diana from the Schenectady County Historical Society. And usually for these programs, we try to go somewhere exotic and different here in Schenectady County, but here we are back at the Mabee Farm. Now, I know you've seen the Mabee Farm before. We talk about it all the time, but this is a very special time of year and a very special activity you can see going on right behind me. It is one of our most important harvests here at the Mabee Farm, our rye harvest. You can see right behind me. So of course this activity would be ubiquitous in Schenectady's colonial past. This is how people literally put bread on the table, right? The Mabee family, other farming families in this valley, harvesting wheat or rye, in this case rye, very similar crop, would be how they would feed their families, right? Now you would plant this stuff, well, we planted ours last fall. This was a winter rye that we planted, although typically, you might expect to plant in the spring. Let's say, early May, you want to get this stuff in the ground. It would come up, well, maybe 2-3 months later, depending on the weather. You want it to be about this height. And of course, before we have tractors or any kind of lawn mowing equipment, we have to cut it down the old-fashioned way. You can see my tool right here. This is our sickle, good old-fashioned reliable bladed instrument right here, a serrated edge on this blade that allows us to go and bundle it up and cut it. Now this would be a family activity. We have our museum family out here. We've got a lot of valuable volunteers here helping us out because this is not a one-person job. And if you take like the Mabees, for instance, you better believe that when it came time for harvesting, the whole family would be out pitching in. From the older folks who might be doing the cutting, and you can see right there an example, or even the young kids who might follow behind, gleaning the pieces of wheat left behind or tying these up into bundles. There's always something to be done because again, we're harvesting maybe a couple hundred square feet, no big deal. The Mabees would have been harvesting acres and acres and acres, right? We're talking football fields worth of grass to cut by hand, and you can imagine how long that takes. And every last ounce that you don't harvest, that you leave out in the fields, that's food that you're not putting in your belly at the end of the day. That can't happen, right? We have to get as much as we can, otherwise we might not as well have even grown it in the first place. So of course I'm something of an apprentice out here. I don't even have the period garb on. I've got my lovely Michael Jackson glove here, but I've got an expert here, Paul Suppley, who can tell you even more about this very labor-intensive process. Why don't we turn it over to Mr. Suppley right here?
Oh, thanks, Michael. Hi, yeah, as Michael was saying, this is an all-up family affair. We've got a little bit of light rain coming down. We've got to get this down before it gets pushed over, lays on the ground and mildews. We've lost the crop at that point. So we're going to try to get as much in tonight as possible. We got a few more people coming. But this would be an entire family affair, neighbors, store owners, everybody that's got an interest in getting in the harvest. Give you a little idea of how we do this. Probably seen a lot of paintings. Michael explained the sickles, the Flemish sickles that we have. Some are very long, some are a little shorter. Michael, you've got one of the long ones.
Indeed.
And as you said, they're serrated, they're very sharp. You cut your fingers very easily on these. Take a finger off, actually. But what we're going to do, we don't have any of the sticks that we would normally use. It's a long stick. It would rest against your forearm. It has an iron hook on the end, which would pull together a large clump of whatever we're harvesting, rye or particularly wheat. Once we've got some, we're going to go 4 or 5 inches off the ground, work our way around, and basically let the sawtooth do the work. We're pulling it towards us, around, cutting. So we've got a nice little spot. And as we were doing this, we'd just be dropping it on the ground. The women would be coming behind, the children behind them, picking it up, bundling it. You've probably been out to Amish country. You've probably seen the ag seal for New York State with the big wheat sheaves. That's what we're going to do. Get it to a point where we can set it out and let it ret. In other words, leave it into the weather for a couple days, rain and shine. Finally get it into the barn when it's dry, and let it further dry in the barn. The big thing is, our next step, which we normally film too, is threshing. Threshing is why we have that particular barn, but we'll save that for another video.
We'll have to stay tuned, folks.
Absolutely.
Come back later.
But that's basically it, and then we can show you how we bundle it, how we twist it and tie it, and we can show you, if you want, how we sharpen these things and keep them going.